Well, speaking of artists, Adele.
Right.
I want to get the story straight. I mean, everybody knows Adele, even country music fans like myself. I mean, Hello is how big a hit can you get? But there's a story floating around that you were going to write some music with Adele, possibly at her request. Let's get the straight of the story.
Adele got in touch with my manager, who's been managing me for 40 years, you know, person I trust very much, and he said, do you want to work with Adele because she's requested maybe writing with you. Now, it's hard to believe, but I didn't know who she was. Because for a few years I lived under a rock. You know, I drank too much and I kind of was out of the business. And, you know, she just happened when I wasn't listening. So I did my homework, you know, I kind of did a crash course on Adele. And we met in London. And she sat down in my hotel room and she said, I'd like to write with you. And I said, I'd love to work with you. And we sat down and I made her a cup of tea and, you know, I didn't really know her and she didn't really know me. She just knew of me through my music. But we had a discussion and she said, you know, I've got a bit of music here. It was a bit like, you know, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. You know. Right. She had a bit of music and she played it to me and she said, what do you think? And I said, well, it's nice, I like it. You know, I'd probably need to hear it again. She said, well, I'd like you to finish it. So I said, okay, email it to me and I'll take it back, you know, and work on it. So she did, and I got the piece of music, and I had a little studio in New York for a while, and I went into the studio and started playing and trying to work on it, and because it was a strong selection of bits, it was like 3 really strong bits, and I tried to add to it. In the meantime, I was trying to get hold of her to get some feedback. And she was very difficult at that point to get hold of, which I've heard happens to a few people with her. But in the end, I emailed her and said, because I didn't have a phone number, I just had an email address. I said, are you waiting for me or am I waiting for you? Because it's kind of quiet around here. And she said, you know what, I'm going through some changes. I mean, she had had a baby and she was moving, and so she said, I think we better forget about it for now. But, you know, because I was worried that I'd failed the audition, you know, because she was young and happening, and kind of I didn't know whether I wasn't what she expected, or, you know, riddled with insecurities. But anyway, she's recently come out and said that it was a little too early for her to, and which is nice, because I know that it's still a love fest, you know.
Well, any chances that you and Adele will get together and write something in the future, or maybe sing
there's
as a
every
duet?
chance. I mean, if she wants to get in touch, I'd have to leave it to her. I mean, this 3rd album of hers took a long time to come, so I imagine the 4th. I mean, you know, as an artist, if you have a huge success with the 1st record, the 2nd record is a mountain to climb. She did it hugely successfully. So a 3rd album is like, oh my God, how can I, you know, because people judge you on how.
Now you're trying to climb the Himalayas.
Yeah, and people judge you on that, you know, oh, she didn't sell as many as the last one. So there's more pressure, and for someone like her, you know, she kind of wants to stand back and do it properly, which is the only way to do it. But I can understand how long it took, and so I'm not going to hold my breath for the 4th album, you know. But if she calls me, of course, I'll be there.